All right, let's start. Repeat after me. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Abusive athletes has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Abusive athletes has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Abusive athletes has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Abusive athletes has got to go. Say it clear. Complicit actors are not welcome here. Say it loud. Say it clear. Complicit actors are not welcome here. Say it loud. Say it clear. Complicit actors are not welcome here. Say it loud. Say it clear. Complicit actors are not welcome here.
Hail to the victims!
Thank you guys again for coming out here today. We really appreciate it. We have some survivors of the Dr. Anderson case that we were going to have speaking very soon, and they're going to share our stories with you. This is so important. Their testimony is vital to helping to get justice on this case, and we are here today to make that a reality. Thank you guys for coming out. Woo!
Hail to the victims. First, I just want to thank you guys for being here, especially in this weather. I really, one of the things that we've been talking about as survivors is we want to make a statement to Rick Fitzgerald, the communication director. Your apologies aren't apologies. You can apologize all you want for what Dr. Anderson subjected us to, but you have never taken responsibility for what the university was complicit with, what it enabled, and what it has been covering up for the last 5 decades. There needs to be accountability. We keep talking about institutional change. How can you have institutional change when you pay $5 million for a report that doesn't cover the entire truth, that does not talk to all of the victims, and shows that even in that report, publishing it was a farce? It was a farce because if you were really talking about institutional change, you would change the cover-up. If you go back and study the history of the University of Michigan, for the last 50 years, they've paid for several reports that show that they are complicit rape culture on that campus. The only new thing that has come out since 2018 with Tad Deluca and his letter is the fact that they've added football players, wrestlers, tennis players, swimmers, and other athletes. That is the only thing that is new about this rape culture that has been pervasive over the last 50 years. One of the reasons why I called my fellow survivors that I knew and supporters of sexual violence and abuse to come here today is so that we stand in unity. I am not Jon Vaughn. I am not John Doe, I am Jon Vaughn. I want them to say our names. I want them to apologize to us individually. Stop hiding behind COVID. Stop hiding behind Zoom. And stop hiding behind your attorneys, because that's no way to apologize to over 1,000 victims. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Tad Deluca, could you come up? Yeah, I think we can give a round of applause.
Woo! Woo! 1975, I wrote a letter that was ignored, and because of that, anyone younger than me, and I'm 66, anyone younger than me shouldn't be here today. And out of the 950 or 1,000 people, anyone who's younger than me should not be there. There are people, I don't want this to, it's not about me. It's about people who were hurt because they chose to absolutely do nothing about what I told them. That's all I have.
I just want to add one thing, and I'm literally here today because of that man's courage. He does not get enough credit for the nightmare that I woke up to, but for the fight that they built me for and that they built us for. So I want to give homage to this man for
Yes.
stepping up
Yes.
and sending that letter to War
Yes.
Manual
Yes.
that has all of you here today. Because the fact is, Michigan is our beloved university. They've lost their way. They have very bad leadership at this point. They're hiding behind the Block M. But without this man, none of us would be here today.
That's right. Thank you.
I do want to add, my name is Henry Hill. I came to the University of Michigan in 1967. I'm one of the first victims at the university that I can perceive of. In my era, though, it was, hey, toughen up when those kind of things happen. But it wasn't about that. It has affected my life for 50 years. You think, well, I heard a comment, well, we won't treat the earlier people the way we'll treat the later people. How long is 50 years worth of trauma? That's what we got. That's what I got. But I gave my all to university. First team All-American, captain of the football team, second black captain of the football team. Gave it all what they give me. Pain and suffering and shame. That's what I got. But we're looking for justice, not just for me, but for all the victims.
What do you guys think about the sexual misconduct policy?
We got one more to go. We have Dean Turner. Dean,
Yes.
John, can I-
Turner.
Dean Turner. Dean, please go ahead.
Yeah, hey guys, I think John's right. We do owe a great debt of gratitude to Tad, and he's kind of really spearheaded a lot of this. I'm glad that the Regents are going to give us some time. And I'd just like to thank all the supporters and the survivors in this endeavor, and just thank you all for coming out and supporting this cause. It's very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and then Chuck, Christian, please step up.
Hi, my name is Chuck Christian. I was on that 1981 Rose Bowl winning team. You know, I met somebody special today that I've heard about and that tried to save my life. Tad Deluca. When I saw him today, I just lost it. I just started crying like a baby, and I just held him. And I know people didn't know what was going on, but for me, I realized that that man tried to save all of us from what Anderson was doing. He spoke out when nobody else would, when the coaches weren't doing anything, when the administration wasn't doing anything. Tad spoke out for us. And it's therapeutic just being here. There are so many victims. And I'm seeing them here today, and it's not just athletes. These are neighbors of Anderson. These are friends of Anderson. These are all kinds of things. These aren't just the athletes. This man was a monster. And we say that it was probably 1,000. No, it was probably closer to 2,000 or 3,000 victims of this man. And I think about it, I said to myself, what, if I could say something to Jim Harbaugh, I said, Jim, what would you do? What would you do if you found out today that your team doctor raped your entire team? The team right now, the team that we are loving to watch right now. What would you do if a doctor raped all of them? Not only that, what if he raped your team now, and he raped your team last year, and he raped your team the year before that? For every year that you've been at Michigan, what would you do, Jim Harbaugh? Would you just sweep it under the rug and hope it doesn't come out for 20 or 30 or 40 years like your predecessor did? Or would you fire the predator and have him arrested, marched out with the police
in handcuffs and spend the rest of his life in jail, I think that's what he would have done. But I know what Bo did. He kept sweeping it under the rug, sweeping it under the rug, sweeping it under the rug. And look at all of us here because he swept it under the rug instead of dealing with it. Enough is enough. And I get tired of these Michigan lies. I hear too many Michigan lies. You say, what's a Michigan lie? A Michigan lie is, it sounds like this. The Bo I knew would have fixed everything before dinner time. The Bo I knew never would have let this happen. The Bo I knew didn't know about this. Those are Michigan lies. And Michigan lies are still lies and cover-ups. And enough is enough is enough is enough. And hail to the victims. Hail to the victims. Enough is enough. I want to close with something that I learned this year as it pertains to, sexual assault, rape, and that violence. And I want you to put yourself in my foot, if you can, or in my shoes. Anderson did not only rape me, Anderson raped the son of my mother and father, the brother of my brother who's here today, the father of my children, the teammate of my teammate, and the friends of my friend. That's how serious sexual assault is in this country. That's how sexual assault is in these universities. So we are not asking to redo history. We're not asking for an apology, so to speak. We're asking to be humanized, to not be Jane and John Does, to be the individuals that you brought into this university that made this university. And I ask a rhetorical question to each and every one of you who loves Michigan. When was the last time you looked at a science lab or a math lab on Saturday afternoon or Thursday evening? A lot of us here are sports. You looked at that marketing arm, which was your first love of Michigan. If we're going to be leaders and best, if we're going to truly be victors, we need to eradicate this cancer that is pervasive in the University of Michigan. But the only way we do it is we speak the truth. You as journalists uncover and cover the truth, and you hold the Board of Regents, which we're here today. You hold the president, you hold the NCAA, you hold the Nikes, the ESPNs of the world accountable, because essentially they are funding this culture of abuse and rape on these universities. You hold them all accountable, and you stand with us. Because what I've found in the last 18 months, which hurts my heart, is sexual abuse and rape is almost synonymous with cancer. We all know someone, one or two people removed, that have gone through these tragedies. We will be here, we will stand, we will not be silenced, and I just want to thank you all for being here and support today. All right, all right.
Hi, thank you guys for coming out today. There are a few times in our lives when real change is a possibility. Right now is one of those times. Right now we have the power, the ability, the movement behind us to advocate for real change and real justice here at the University of Michigan. The survivors of the evil Dr. Anderson and the survivors of all other forms of sexual misconduct at the University of Michigan shall no longer be silenced or ignored. It is our time to stand up for what is right, to change the status quo, and to create a better tomorrow. A tomorrow with a life free of harm and full of justice for those who have fallen victim against the individuals and groups who seek to cause such harm in our society. This is our time. This is our moment to show the University of Michigan and the world that we are powerful.
Yes.
We are strong.
Yes.
We have a voice.
Yes.
And that voice
Yes.
will no longer be silent.
Yes.
The university announced this new sexual misconduct policy. What does it do that you like, and what does it do that's not enough?
Actually, I have not had a chance to look at the policy now. I'm still trying to get things worked out in my brain over what the policy used to be, and that's what I'm still dealing with, is what it was. So hopefully they're learning. They're learning, and that's why I asked the question: what would Jim Harbaugh do if it happened to his team today? Would he do the same thing that Bo did, or would he deal with it immediately?
What do you want to see happen from this ordinance? What do you want them to do?
I want them to understand that we really are victims, that we are having to deal with this stuff our whole lives. You know, the hardest thing for me, I have 3 sons, and the hardest thing for me was to tell them, each of them, what Anderson did to me. That broke me down. My kids cried and sobbed like babies. My wife cried. And now, and now we're trying to pull things together now, because it's just too much. It's too much.
I've interviewed Jon Vaughn about things that he says were covered up. Do you feel things were covered up?
Oh,
So
no
what?
question, no question.
That were revealed in that investigative report.
Yes,
What still needs to be revealed?
the fact that 24 administrators knew that the rapes were taking place and nobody did anything. And as a player, all we needed was for one person to step up for us. That's one. But nobody stepped up for us. Everybody was so afraid of offending Bo, or offending the big M, or whatever, or I don't know, but nobody spoke up for us, and now we're still dealing with this mess, and it shouldn't be. And I look out there at the team now. I love watching this Michigan team, and it's exciting, and my heart broke when Bell got hurt. It's like, oh, this guy's something special. But when he got hurt, but then I thought about, that was us. That was us, when we were 18, 19, and 20 years old. So if it can happen to us, why won't it happen to them? Why think things like this can't happen? And that's why I don't know what the changes were that they made, but they need to make some serious changes and do what's right for the ones that they recruited, the 850 that they recruited 40, 50, and 60 years ago.
Are you hoping to talk to somebody in person today, Chuck, for the first time in a long time?
Yes.
If you do, what would you say to them?
I don't know yet. I'm just going to just explain to them, my position, what I've been through. I'm actually representing a lot of players, because a lot of the guys, for one reason or another, can't be here. So they say to me, Chuck, will you stand up and speak out for us? And that's what I've been doing, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to speak out for everybody, not just for me. But I will share my personal story, but I have so many stories of all these different players that they've shared with me. And so that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to share.
Any after effects that you've suffered personally? Like
Oh, yeah.
either not going to the doctor or anything?
Yeah, because I didn't go to the doctor, they weren't able to get rid of the prostate cancer. So now I still have cancer in my body, and I'm still struggling with that. So nobody knows how much time I have left. And I'm enjoying every day I get. I'm enjoying my grandkids. I'm enjoying my wife. I'm enjoying my children. I'm enjoying every minute I get, because I don't know how much time I got. And it's all because of this monster. This monster that Don Canham knew about but didn't do anything about. That Bo Schembechler knew about but didn't do anything about. So I'm dealing with that stuff even to this day. And it's a shame.
Tell me your story about finding out you had cancer and
Well, what happened was I was getting up like 8 to 10 times a night to go to the bathroom. And my wife said to me, she said, Chuck, that's not normal. I said, well, it's normal for me. She said, Chuck, you need to go see the doctor. So I went in to see the doctor. And when I went to see the doctor, they ran tests on, the first thing he did, he said, I want to do a digital exam on you. And I'm like, whoa, that's what Anderson did to us when I was 18 years old. I said, no way I'm going to let you do that to me. And then I put it off for another 10 years. And during that 10 years, the cancer spread, the cancer metastasized throughout my body. And, and that's why I don't know how much time I have now. So they gave me, at the time, it was 5.5 years ago, they said, you have 3 years to live. And now I'm just passing year 5, but I don't know how many years I'm gonna get because of this whole thing. So, and then after the, and now every day I take about 30 pills to stay out of pain. Because if I don't take 30 pills, then I can't walk to the bathroom. I can't walk up and down stairs. My wife has to hold my hand to pull me up and to take me places. That's not right. That's not right. So, but I have to do it in order to be around. In order to be here today, I have to take all those pills.
How many plaintiffs or claimants are there in the lawsuit you're part of?
There are at least 8, almost 900. But to be honest, there are a lot more victims than there are, because it's more than 900 victims. It's probably closer to 3,000, if not more.
There's never been a sexual scandal like this, of this scale.
In the world. In the world. This is the biggest scandal in the world, but it's hard to get people to cover it because people don't want to lose access to the stadium, don't want to lose access to the to being able to interview players after the games. They don't want to lose access to all this stuff. But the deal is, this is the biggest scandal in the world, but nobody is talking about it. Very few. This should be on ESPN. It should be on all the sports channels. Everything. This should be a big deal, but they're playing it down. And I'm tired of them playing it down because this is legit. This is for real. And a lot of people are hurting because of this.
Say my name, right? Don't hide behind, it's interesting that I talked to several victims. They're not contacted by the university or its representatives. We're always spoken in survivors. It's like we're anonymous. I want to personally introduce myself to each and every one of the men that are John Doeing me, right? Which doesn't, I'm not looking for validation. We're looking for respect, right? Because not only did we get admitted to the University of Michigan, we thrived in the athletic department at the university, but yet it's almost like they're trying to erase our record of existence at the University of Michigan. I'm a student athlete who was victimized at the hands of one of your employees. Take responsibility.
What can the university do to legislate a culture that acknowledges when victims and survivors come forward?
Well, I think you got to hold the NCAA. You've got to hold the Big Ten and the institution. But I also think it's interesting how obviously there are members that probably haven't suffered abuse by looking at how they speak about the abuse that we've been inflicted with. So I think there needs to be an education internally about not only the abuse, but the trauma and the trauma after the trauma. That's a start. Where do we go? I don't know, because this is at USC. It was at Michigan State. It's at Ohio State. You're about to have a case at USC. At LSU. So I think there needs to be institutional change. I think we have an opportunity as Michigan to lead the way. But at the same time, we have to start by giving respect to those that have been damaged. And we have to stop hiding behind, or the institution needs to stop hiding behind these ivory walls, these, meetings limiting access to people that have valid reasons of negative interactions with the university or were negatively affected. Bo Schemberger said this in a 1982 recruiting video, and I can only speak for football because that's what I know. What's the number one way that you judge a football program? It's by its effect on its athletes. The number one way you judge a football program, one of the greatest coaches in the history of the NCAA, but those are his words, not mine. take care of the ones that have been hurt so that we can heal, so we can bring back who is the university that we all fell in love with. You know, that's for the attorneys.
What do you think of the policy U of M just revealed
You know,
today?
I haven't read it through at all. But just being a logical man, if you're still covering up, no policy that you could write, unless you tell the entire truth, can be effective. So I think it's, you know, you want me to give it a grade, it's an F. I think it is a PR stunt to deflect on the entire iceberg of the atrocity that has occurred at the University of Michigan over the last half a century.
What do you think they need to do to tell the truth?
Except, you know, it's like if you miss a block, you watch the film and you correct your mistakes. There was a mistake in leadership, there was a mistake in culture that was lawless for the last 50 years. They have to get real with that and try to change it. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
Are most of those people no longer with the university or dead?
No, there are some there. I think one of the main culprits is there. Paul Schmidt, Associate Athletic Director, was the trainer. And in my experience and other teammates' experience, and I'm only going to speak for myself, when I had to see Dr. Anderson, I was told to go see Dr. Anderson from Paul Smith. And I was also forbidden to go see any other doctor once I came on the campus at the University of Michigan. So I never saw my childhood doctor once I became a student athlete at that University of Michigan. Yes. I definitely think it's consistent. You have organizations on campus that protect sexual assault victims because if you look at consistently over the last 5 or 6 years, there are sexual assault victims, male and female, that have openly said Ann Arbor is not a safe place. If you look at reports, say that there has been a rape culture. Slissel's right-hand man, the provost, ran rampant in sexual abuse for 20 years. So as important as wins and losses on that football field, teenagers' lives are more important. And so everything runs uphill. If we were a losing football program, no one would be talking about Bo Schembechler, Schembechler Hall, or a statue. So you must hold the people in charge accountable, literally. So yes, it needs to be more on the radar of the students, of the fans, of the faculty, of the media, of the sponsors and everyone, because it continues to go on.
Why do you think
I compartmentalize it. I watch the game. I cheer for my team. But that doesn't mean that I ever forget what happened to me. I'm not telling people how to feel, but I'm hopefully encouraging people to seek the truth. Think about how many people came out here today in this weather to support this cause that never even met Dr. Anderson. So that shows you that there's a problem at this university, right? And people should be aware of it, at least have it on their radar. It's always, I didn't think it could happen to me until it happens to me. They've hidden behind Zoom. They've hidden behind the attorneys. They've blacked out faces when other victims have spoken. Speak to us. At least acknowledge us as human beings. Well, absolutely. It's, Anderson didn't get away with being Anderson if it wasn't for the institution that enabled him, empowered him, and stood by complicit. So, absolutely. That's a bitter pill that must be swallowed, but they must swallow that pill. You have to understand, I called Chuck on Monday. He asked me, do you need me? I said yes. We all know Chuck's story in the cancer. I know guys that have fallen back into alcoholism. I know other prostate exam survivors are currently dealing with cancer, broken marriages. The collateral damage of abuse runs far and wide. And when you were gaslit or told that all of your medical treatment in the facility was medical treatment, and you come to find out that you were at a teenage led to a serial predator, rapist. The only way to, I know for some of these guys to move on is for not to be turned into villains, not to take the playbook of Michigan State or Ohio State or Penn State. Because that's the thing with the media and TV, we've all watched those cases and we see the same thing happening when, without question, this will go down. As of today, and I don't know when, the largest sexual abuse, rape, and cover-up in the history of sports. So, until we all acknowledge both sides, what we're dealing with, there'll never be a perfect world. I definitely heard from the legislature. I was at a couple bill press conferences back in September. That's not my expertise, but I definitely think that that's something that would help resolve and provide peace for a lot of us victims. Absolutely.